I'm gonna be talking about my thought process throughout. You should always focus on the large structures first. So focus on the head as like the entire sphere. Make sure the shade is in that is correct in that regard. It's actually slightly more complicated in terms of the 3D structure of the face. But the more you understand about that, the better you can make sure the tone value is correct throughout. For example, this part here is too bright. Some part here is too bright, and so on. But let me tweak it, and hopefully you'll be able to see the difference as I'm doing it. So I'm gonna use the same tone value, hopefully, and his drawing is a little bit textured, and when I'm doing the tweaking, it's gonna be more smooth. But that's not a big deal. So if you look at the value as a sphere, you really have to pay attention to the subtleties of where the highlight is. We tend to exaggerate. We tend to think that there are certain parts of the drawing is more bright, or we make them more bright than they actually are. Especially when if they're surrounded by other dark values, because then it's kind of an optical illusion we tend to fall victim to. And then there are parts that's really dark, and those parts you would want to increase the darkness. And I'm not gonna spend like an hour on this to make sure everything's perfect. Just I want the main idea to be conveyed. Okay. So the eye is definitely something we need to go over a bit more. Like there's not gonna be this bright of highlighting here and so on. Like just by doing that, you can probably already tell there is a difference. Same thing with the hair. Don't look at the hair. Think about the hair as like a million different strands of hair. That's way too complicated. Just look at it as a whole structure, and then you can play with the details and the strands of hair later. That's not a problem. Just see it as like a general structure. Because we're essentially creating an optical illusion based on what we are drawing, and the best way, and really the only way we can show lighting and therefore showing the underlying 3D structure is by various degrees of tone value. We can't do that from based on like left and right, up and down. But we can show that where something is going downward or upward, how close it is to us, how far further away by tone value. We can show how therefore it interact with light by tone value. Okay. So my goal here is not necessarily to make a perfect drawing, but to do something pretty quickly, hopefully, right? That would show a difference, so you know that it's actually quite easy to get to the next level. And just by doing this, I think like the face is already a lot more true regarding the light. There's some rebound light over here, I think, but I don't want to get into that right in this video anyway. Okay. And this is just me just smooth things out, and there's a lot of subtleties on the face. Like if you really want to make sure it's really realistic, portrait is one of those things where you have the least degrees of error tolerance. Like it has a very low error tolerance. Everything's got to be pretty much on point, otherwise it's just gonna look a little off. I think the light's probably there, and the lips, the upper lip will be a little darker. Like you can tell by the reflection from the eyes, right? The light is coming from like this direction. Therefore, the upper lip that is facing downward would not receive that light, so it would be a lot darker than bottom one. Same thing with the area that is slightly under the lips and areas under the chin and so on. Like this part here is too bright too. So it's more important that the values are correct in relationship to each other actually. So if I were to make this whole image darker or brighter, I can do that and it will still look fine as long as the values are in decent proportion to each other. So if I decrease this by a certain percentage, I have to decrease everything else by a certain percentage, and that's one of the ways you can do it. I mean, there's all different kind of ways you can adjust the value where the image will still look correct. And Photoshop, if you understand curves, it's just different ways, different equations really, of adjusting the value. Okay, so now let's work on the eyes a bit. And gotta be really careful. There's a few. I think there's a few. Eyelashes here that caught light, right? Just a little bit. And over here it's mostly dark, especially inside. I'm not gonna play around with the proportions too much for this one. Just the values. And if you're not sure that where to submit the videos, I made a video about a few videos back, like 4 or 5 videos back, where I was basically telling you, I was giving away all the information that where to submit the images and so on. And if you're one of my patrons, you can just post it in the community page, and I'll see it. Okay. And this part here is actually quite dark, so you'll use the darkest value you have. There's no light is reaching there, and you can tell this is a professional shot, a reference with just one light source. Just one light source. And most time they do it with 1 or 2 at most. And they're generally very carefully designed. So there's some little details on the eyebrows too, but I don't know how much I want to put down. You see it on left and right. Now that when the values are more or less correct, you start to see the form becomes much more natural. Okay. I gotta be careful not to overspend time, since I tend to do that. I tend to just keep looking and see things to fix, and I'll just keep going, and I think most artists tend to have that kind of habit. Alright, this eye, same thing. It's a lot less brighter than you think it is. even the ones that's facing light. I mean, look how much darker I made the one of the eyes iris already, and the other one has to match it. Oh. Some really subtle work here, but and over this eye, I think this one is slightly too big. Size of the eye, the tones on the eye, basically anything relating to the eye in a portraiture is probably almost always gonna be the most important thing, like 99 out of 100 times. Okay. Like certain things, you don't have to put too much. It doesn't have to be that accurate for it to look okay, and certain things you cannot afford to make any mistake or any large mistake at all. And with something that's already very error sensitive as portraiture, eyes is like, extra extra error sensitive. Even if a person have, let's say, blue eye or light eye, it will not be as bright and light as what this the original image has shown. Alright, look, you can see now that there's a decent difference, and it's about 20 minutes. Well, I don't know how, I didn't see it, I didn't count it. Maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes of work. And of course, as I keep going, this can look more and more realistic, but I think we got the point across for this video. The years, oh yeah, here. When you're doing the years and stuff like that, any part of the drawing of the portrait, right? You're showing depth that requires depth that's very, very dark. You really want to make it dark so that it sinks downward and you feel like you feel like that, how much it is further away from you, or how much light is not reaching it. That's all depends on the tone value. Oh great, I have a low battery warning for my controller, but that's okay. And another thing I want just to briefly talk about is, and this is when you have more and more experience, you see how in the original image everything has the exact same level of texture, clarity, and edge. So in that sense, the viewers it's like, okay, everything becomes similar, then they're not really sure what you want them to focus on, right? So in this case, I would either draw the clothes in a different style, or make it much more rougher, basically. Like right now it looks like he's wearing wool and it has texture, so it's already kind of working. But if I want to show that he's wearing a smooth jacket or something like that, I might do just a few lines. I might just do something that shows there's a difference in treatment, in the amount of effort you put into it compared to the face. I mean, that's one of the optional things you can do. It's art, it's subjective, but it's one of those things you can do to show that there's a human touch to the image. You're not just copying something over without any thought to what you're doing. So the main idea is, first, the entire image is a lot darker than you think it is. work on the overall large structure first, make sure the lighting is correct first, and then tweak the details. And I hope you guys can see a difference between the left side and the right side. Okay, let's do another one.